Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's HSO Takeaway Lunch and Learn session. My name is Steve Pooler, a Senior Account Manager with HSO. I am joined today by my colleague Doug McConchie, who's going to give us an overview of BYDL functionality. We have heard of BYOD in the past, and moving as the market moves towards BYDL, we're getting quite a few inquiries and conversations with our customers about different functionality and how to turn data into proper insights for business intelligence. We'll be taking, as mentioned, a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, please raise them at the end of the session. But for now, I'll hand over to my colleague, Doug. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve, and hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Doug McConchie, and for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to talk you through a little bit about the world of data and insights and how to turn data and insights into, as it says on the screen, competitive advantage. In particular, we're going to focus on some new functionality that hopefully you're aware of, but if not, I'll try and explain what it does, which is bring your own data lake, BYDL, bring your own data lake functionality, which you can use to export data from Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics, and guess what? Put it in a data lake. So we'll explain what that does. Before getting into it, though, I just wanted to maybe set the scene a little bit and talk about, why is that important? We all are working in the world of data, whether we know it or not. And amazingly, that there are some quite impressive statistics out there about how much there is around the growth of data in our working lives and also in our personal lives. One statistic in particular, I just still find amazing, that apparently in the last 2 years, 90% of all data ever created has been created. So in the last 2 years, we've managed to produce 90% of the entire historic data sets of data, which is just, if you think about it, is just incredible, really. The exponential growth in data is everywhere, not only in our working lives, but also in our personal lives. And so getting access to it, using it, exploiting it, turning it into competitive advantage is absolutely the right thing to do, and it will help us in our lives in all sorts of different ways, and I'll try and explain what I mean by that in the next few slides. I will pause at the end for questions, but for now, if you can sort of hold on to those and raise your questions towards the end, then we'll take some time to go through it. A little bit about me. I head up the data and analytics team at HSO. Been in this role for getting on 18 months now, building out a team, and I've hopefully met quite a few of you on this call already. But if I haven't, I'd love to come and meet you and explain more about what we get up to. But effectively, it's my team role in HSO, if I move on to the next slide, to come in and support you in using your data, not just the Dynamics data sets, but to use your data to turn it into that commercial advantage. We support pretty much all of our customers in working out how best to manage data sets, extract data from your various source systems, build out data platforms, think about data warehouses, put in place data governance activities, build out Power BI dashboards, think through advanced analytics capabilities. All of that work is what my teams do. So you're familiar with my colleagues in the world of the dynamic space, who come in and deploy and install Microsoft Dynamics. Once it's there, though, how do you actually best use it? Please come to me and my team, and we'll help you try to leverage those data sets, blend it with other data sets, and turn it into that commercial advantage. What is that commercial advantage? Maybe just pause and talk a little bit about this area first. Really, it comes across in sort of 4 key areas. The outcomes you should be sort of focusing on is really along the bottom there, how to drive revenue, how to build efficiency, how to optimize your existing processes, and how to use data to help change the game of your business operations. So let's just sort of unpack those a little bit and talk about them. Driving revenue. Yeah, clearly we want to increase sales, and using insights to help drive improved sales is key. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, we could be looking at the margins of your various products. Let's understand which products deliver more margin than other products. Help you therefore focus your efforts on those which are giving you the best sort of return, and probably help you to think about those products maybe which you should be maybe removing from your portfolio, or certainly not emphasizing and putting much effort in to supporting. Another sort of area around that increasing revenue sort of topic is understanding the world of customer purchase patterns. Which customers are purchasing more from you, which customers are purchasing less, and again, where do you focus your efforts, and understanding where you need to put more effort in order to increase sales. Only by bringing your data out of Dynamics can you start to address those sort of topics. If we think about the world of efficiency, clearly you want to have efficient operations, and you want your activities to be productive. But how do you actually get the data from your Dynamics and other sources into the hands of those people on the shop floor? That is what you can do by using Power BI, by using handheld devices, making that information available literally to people on the operational floor. It could be about building visual management sort of screens across different aspects of your operation. It could be about making data available actually in the process itself through handheld devices and so on. There's a whole range of different methods which we can help you get those insights so that your teams know what their current performance is and how they could be improving their performance. Equally, we can be helping those people in the operational floor build their own insights by helping them through training, improve their capabilities, and be able to use their data sets and the tools you already have in your organization to better effect, so that they can bring that analysis into their ways of working. Talking about ways of working, let's talk about optimizing processes. What do we mean by that? Well, let's take that data governance at the top. Data governance is a way of helping you standardize what you do when it comes to using data. It ensures those who need access to data can have access to data, and conversely, those who don't are not given access to it because they don't need it, and potentially it could be the wrong thing to give them. So we can put some controls around that. But equally, it's more than just putting controls in place. It's about ensuring that ultimately the insights that you have and the analytics that you build is based on foundations. It's ensuring that data quality is robust. It's ensuring that you put in place some rules, some definitions around your KPIs, and make sure that the insights people use are of good quality. It's also around making sure that the processes, end-to-end processes, from taking data, capturing data in things like Dynamics, but other tools too, are governed in the right way, and the onward data pipelines that you build are used to optimum effect and aren't costing you too much in the operation itself. And lastly, over on the right hand side, changing the game. What do we mean by changing the game? Here, it's really about that innovation box. It's about working through how to actually reduce the manual hand cranking which many organizations go through in order to develop those insights which you use. Many an organization is far too reliant on Excel and manual processes to improve sort of data quality before it goes into those various spreadsheets. Let's look at how we can automate some of that and actually speed up that process, remove some of those sort of process bottlenecks, and make it a more streamlined activity. And equally, let's look at ways that we can actually use those data insights within your organization to actually drive new business models, to serve new segments of customers, or even offer new services to customers, and maybe even monetize or make commercial the use of your data in those customer relationships which you have. So there's a whole range of different outcomes which data can be used to enable, and those outcomes will save you money, they'll help you bring efficiency, they'll certainly help you drive revenue into your business. And here at HSO, we'll be delighted to help you trying to identify those and build out roadmaps to enable these ROIs to be achieved. So effectively, when you think about the world of turning data into a competitive advantage, you need to think about it almost as a digital transformation. You need a strategy in place that establishes what are the foundations on which you want to build and what you're trying to achieve in the use of your data sets. Think about your data sets itself and how you're going to curate those, manage them, curate them, enrich them, and so on. Equally, how you're going to integrate one set of data with other sets of data. So you move those silos which very often exist in an organization so that you can actually join data sets together and make them even richer and more valuable for you as an organization. It's also how you're going to do that analysis. Who are the people who will do that analysis internally? How do we skill them up? How do we actually make that analysis available to the wider organization? How do we build communities within your company so that we have, if you like, centers of excellence around business intelligence, around advanced analytics, around some of your core systems, such as Dynamics? And ultimately, across this whole piece, how do we enable continuous improvement? We don't expect you to suddenly become the world's, the likes of Amazon. That's a big jump, but we can certainly improve. And so it's thinking systematically, strategically, what are the next steps to get you into that improvement, that next phase of improvement, so that you get those benefits or start getting those benefits, and over time get even more benefits on an ongoing basis. So that digital transformation is the name of the game, and data is a key part of it. For far too long, if you like, data has been the resource in an organization which, to be honest, has been sort of overlooked and hasn't really been exploited. For many a year now, we've been managing people, through human resource management. For many a year, we've been managing our finances and all that financial operation. We've been managing marketing, we've been managing sales, but who really has been managing the data in your organization and turning that into something which delivers commercial advantage? So coming up with that strategy, that plan, how we're going to do that is absolutely key. So let's bring it to something a little bit more practical and talk about how you actually do that. So here on this chart is a busy chart, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to walk you through it from left to right. So hopefully it will become a little bit clearer. What's important is to think through your data architecture and build out what's called a data platform. And what that data platform is this sort of logical drawing. It says, where are your internal sources? What are they? So some of those will be things like Dynamics, but it could be SAP, it could be Oracle, it could be some operational systems, all of those things. And some of those systems will be real-time systems, pumping out little bleeps every time something happens, and some of them will be, if you like, core systems which are slower to be updated, but all of those types of systems need to be made available to the wider organization so that you can get a slice of that commercial advantage which we've just been talking about. Equally, there'll be some external systems to your organization, and in fact, as I mentioned up front, an awful lot of new data sources are coming from that external field. It's your suppliers, it's your customers, it's the wider marketplace within which we're all operating, where we can get external feeds, which are actually quite valuable for us to have in our own data platform environments. So let's bring all of those internal and external sources into the organization. So we need to go through an acquisition phase where we think through, what type of data is it? Do we need it sort of updated once overnight, or is it a real-time stream? Except we need to think through the types of data and how we're going to bring it in. But effectively, it's relatively simple to acquire that data and bring it into the organization. And one of those methods, which we're going to talk about shortly, is that bring your own data lake, which is an acquisition method, which will allow you to bring in data into something like an enterprise data warehouse. Once it's in that organized area, be it in an enterprise data warehouse, be it in a data lake, be it in a data mart of some description, or an operational data store, you can start exploiting it. And that's what's key. It's not until you get it into that location that you can really start enriching it, using it, exploiting it to get to the insights that you need in order to get that commercial advantage. So that bring your own data lake piece, which you're about to talk about, is absolutely fundamental as the first step in order to enable it to be available in your organization. Otherwise, it really is only in a silo. It's only in the world of Dynamics and the Dynamics users. and you're not really making it available more widely across your organization. So we land it in a data lake in the case of the BYDL, and then we can start analyzing it, and we can start using it. Now, what happens in that analysis sort of box there? Well, lots of things, to be honest. First of all, we're discovering what we've got. You know, we're actually using the data, potentially putting more definitions around it, because you know, effectively it's a raw feed until we've defined it. So we're managing the KPIs and the metrics within there. We're potentially integrating it with other internal sources or external sources so that we're merging data sets to make it more powerful and more enriched. We're potentially improving the data quality in there as well. Sort of factoring it so that it makes more sense to us in our onward consumption. So we're potentially structuring, improving, enhancing the data. And certainly we're building out data models in that analysis sort of area as well, so that our end users, when they come to use it, know where to go and find the data. So those models will likely be in a data warehouse, but those data warehouses can be set up, as it says on the left, in areas like data marts around specific topics, like the customer, like the product, like employee, and so on and so forth. Once they're in those marts, we can also do a further analysis on them, so we can start mining them, and we can also start building out some sort of automated routines which do some snazzy things, more of that on the next area around delivery. So let's talk about that next area on delivery. What are the sorts of things that people will start to use and need from all of that analysis? Well, ultimately, that analysis will need to feed certain areas of the business. It will need to feed information portals. What do I mean by that? Workspaces where dashboards live or reports live. And some of those reports might be scheduled reports based on what happened last week, for example, or last month. Some of them might be real-time reports, literally about your operations happening now, accessed by people on your shop floor, as I just discussed up front. Some of them might be management dashboards with all your KPIs and insights in them. Equally, they could also be workbenches for people to sort of play with and do analysis with. So they might be things where people need to visualize things, build out new reports themselves for operational purposes within their own teams. And it might be for some people with the pointy heads, if you like, to do data science on them, to have laboratories where they can do that forecasting, that predictive analytics, those model building activities to get to things like artificial intelligence or machine learning. Equally, they could also be there just effectively to feed another system, and those APIs will feed those other systems so that they are enriched themselves and help your operational activities. But ultimately, those users on the right-hand side in the consumption area could be internal people, they could be external third parties, they could actually be business applications, or they could be some snazzy thinking which feeds sort of AI sort of models and so forth. But those are the consumers of all that insights for across the journey. And lastly, across the bottom there, the key thing is the world of governance. Now, as I mentioned up front, a key activity in the world of data analytics is make sure that we put in place some standards, some rules, some better practices to ensure that that enrichment, that security is enabled across the whole flow. So that's effectively what we want to build in a sort of theoretical way. Let's make it even more real and talk around the world of an example, bring your own data lake architecture here, and the world of F&O, for example, in Dynamics. So there in the world of F&O, on the left-hand side, you have your rich Dynamics data sets. And it's great, you can do so much with the world of Dynamics. It's a great operational tool. But only the users of Dynamics can access it within Dynamics. There's many other users across the organization who want to have access to those KPIs, those metrics, those insights that it contains. So you need to export the data from Dynamics and make it available to other people. So how would you do that? Well, the built-in functionality which Microsoft released back in effectively the new year, January sort of time, is this bring your own data lake. Bring your own data lake is actually a really nice graphical user interface, which is built into Dynamics, which allows you to get to those entities and those sort of fact tables within Dynamics, if you like, the underlying data model that Dynamics is built upon. to export those entities and dimensions into a data lake. A data lake is really just a container. It's a snazzy word for just a container. In its simplest form, it is relatively dumb. It just is a place to land things, but it can be much more sophisticated than that. But in the simplest form, the export functionality that Microsoft enables allows you to go into that data model and say, oh, this entity and that entity, let's pull that out, and it effectively automatically will export it into that Azure data lake for you. Once it's there, you can then build out the onward pipeline. And that onward pipeline, the structure of it, will depend really on what your particular use case is. Is it Power BI? Is it data analytics? Is it for an onward consumption in another system? Here's an example of what that might be. Very often we will use a tool such as Azure Synapse to do all that preparation, that cleansing, that matching, that enriching, which I talked about. Once it's been cleansed and enriched, we'll put it into a SQL data warehouse. I'm sure your organization probably already has several of these, but this would be, if you like, the enterprise data warehouse, which is the central source of all data within your organization, cleansed, prepared, ready to be exploited by your onward users. Once it's there, you can then use analytical services to do that data science and feed out various data routines which will be consumed by those different consumers across the organization, one of which might well be Power BI, those dashboards and reports. Across the piece, we also use various other tools to help sort of orchestrate and manage the flows, and one of those is Azure Data Factory. Another tool which we use is Azure Purview, which is a relatively new Microsoft tool, which allows data dictionaries and data catalogs and so on, data lineage aspects to be managed and set up across this whole flow. So effectively, when it comes to things like definitions, there's one place to go, and those definitions, not just for what's in Dynamics, but within other systems, could all be managed centrally through that Azure Purview tool. And then obviously the security aspects across this are managed within the Active Directory, but equally within things like Azure Key Vault across the piece as well. So this flow is by no means the only flow, but it allows you to take that data from Dynamics, bring it across into a data lake, and then do that onward enrichment so that you can get to that competitive advantage I mentioned. And being a Microsoft Stack tool, you can obviously use that data lake to be the source for other data feeds. So feeds from the Dataverse, but equally from other systems. So if you have Oracle, if you have SAP, if you have other operational systems, all of that data can go into that data lake for onward consumption. I'm going to pause there because I've thrown a lot at you, but I do really want to really give you some opportunities to come back and ask for more information. We can support in various ways. We can come in and actually help you through a one-day workshop to test out, road test, that bring your own data lake functionality. We could come in and build out dashboards. We could come in and help you look at your current operations in the use of Dynamics data and look at how we could boost ROI and carry out booster assessments, all the way through to carrying out data strategy or work for you. So please do reach out to me and I'll follow up and explain more about all of these various accelerators and how we can help you.
So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for Doug spending some time just to take us through that overview. I'd just like to remind people that coming up 13th October, what's new in Dynamics 365, the Wave 2 release. As you recall, 2 substantial releases by Microsoft in the spring and autumn, and we'll be taking a quick tour of the latest features and functionality of Wave 2 with our enterprise architects Chris Tilley and Shilin Kamini coming up in October. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much indeed for joining us today.